When I walked outside this morning, it was 63 degrees. So it could not be a better time to talk about planning my fall knitting. Hey everyone, it's Natalie, also known as Knitty Natty. Welcome if you're new here and welcome back if you are returning. I'm going to be talking today about planning my knitting out for September, October, and November. Basically everything up until December, because December is reserved for admin projects and just like having a good time, making whatever I want for the month. So this is really the time of the year where I'm kind of trying to round out and finish up all of my goals for 2022. So I'm going to be talking about a lot of different things that I kind of think about when I'm planning, but I started out with some key dates that I have for the next couple of months. So I wrote them down here. So here is what's coming up. First, we have Rhinebeck, which is coming up October 15th and 16th. So I want to make some sweaters for Rhinebeck, so that's the first date that I have in mind. The second thing is the West Knits MCAL, which is a shawl knit along, and that actually starts on October, I think it's the 6th of October. So I want to make sure I have everything ready to do that as well. And then the other thing is just Advent coming up on December 1st. I know that's not exactly a chronological list with the MCAL actually starting before the Rhinebeck sweaters, but because the West Knits MCAL is coming up and I want to be like needles cleared before that, I'm considering my Rhinebeck sweaters actually needing to be done by October 5th. So kind of rearrange those deadlines, and that's what I'm starting with. One other huge factor for me is that I have set this massive goal for 2022 to use up all of my yarn stash by the end of the year. I'm doing a really good job. I've been keeping pace pretty well, but I do need to consider what upcoming projects that I have. And since December, starting December 1st, is going to be reserved for Advent knitting, which is really not stash, at least in the way that I'm managing it, that then moves the end of the year date to November 30th. So with all of these factors, this is like the most fun puzzle. I really love planning things. So let's get right into our first category. I think the most logical way to approach planning is to take it chronologically by finish date. So since my Rhinebeck sweaters are the earliest thing I want to finish, I'm going to start with those. And luckily, these are two things I've already cast on, so I'm going to share those with you and share a little bit of how I'm going to make sure or give myself the best chance to finish them by the date I have in mind. So even though Rhinebeck technically isn't until October 15th, with all of the like pre-Rhinebeck stuff happening on October 14th, I don't want to finish right at the deadline. I want to finish early and give myself some time. And I also want to finish early because of the West Knits MCAL that is starting on October 6th. So because of that, I'm giving myself a deadline of October 5th. Now, keep in mind, today is September 14th. So this is like 3 weeks away, and I have 2 sweaters that I want to complete. So I'm trying to be, realistic with myself, but also kind of challenge myself to see if I can get this done. So let's look at those 2 Rhinebeck sweaters that I am making, and I'll be brief because I know I talk about these in the podcast a lot. So the first one is the Alpenglow by Andrea Mowry. This is the Alpenglow 1, and all the project details for this will be down below if you want to see my yarns and everything. And I'm talking about this in great detail every single week on the podcast. So that's my first one, and you can see I'm working on the body. I'm actually really dangerously close to working on the rib as of recording this, so I'm feeling great about my pace on this sweater. The second sweater I'd like to complete for Rhinebeck is also an Andrea Mowry pattern. Not intentional, just my friend Amy and I wanted to make this sweater and got this yarn earlier this year. All I have is this. This is all that I've started, just sleeves. So obviously this is going to take some planning. This is the Nurtured sweater by Andrea Mowry, although you can't tell yet. But yeah, now that I'm looking at this and thinking about it, I'm like, okay, is it going to be realistic that in 3 weeks time, I finish this sweater and pretty much knit an entire other sweater? I'm not really sure yet, but that's why I like planning, because I can break it down and see what it would take in order for me to finish something in that time, and then would that actually be kind to ask of myself? So how do you plan? Well, I like to use my notebook, and I'm not going to go into a ton of detail today. I am going to show one sample, but I have another video where I plan out all of my summer knitting, and I really go into detail about like how I take things each month, month over month, and plan things. This has been so effective this year, helping me learn about myself and how I actually like to work on projects. But I did already break down, I'm almost actually at the end of this notebook. I need to buy a new one soon. Hang on, where is this page? Okay, perfect. So I already did a breakdown of my Alpenglow sweater, and it is as follows. My plan for my Alpenglow sweater, I first break down by weeks. So I'm working on the body this week, and then I have a daily goal for that. Next week, I'm planning to work on the first sleeve, and the following week, I will work on the second sleeve. This will have me finishing this sweater by the end of September, which is in plenty of time for my October 5th goal. As you can see, I haven't done this for the other project, the Nurtured project, because I just wasn't sure how much I was going to get done. And I find that sometimes I work better when I focus on one project instead of trying to alternate between the two. But if I really want to get this done by October 5th, I'm going to have to start working on this Nurtured sweater and really make some progress on it. So I'm going to walk you through how I'm going to break down the Nurtured sweater so that I can even see if it's possible to finish by October 5th. When I sit down to plan, I have a few things with me. I've got my notebook, I've got a pen, I have my phone or computer pulled up to a calendar, and then of course I have my pattern with me. And this is just going to be a super brief overview. I do have a more detailed video that goes into all of my plans. So I just want to plan right now for the Nurtured sweater, the one that I have just started the sleeves on. But I want it to be realistic along with what I'm doing here for my Alpenglow. I'm going to first start by putting in dates, and since I have a little bit longer to work on this sweater because I have an October 5th goal, whereas for Alpenglow I have September 30th, I'm going to add an extra week here. I'm just going to use these dates on the side, but then I'm also going to add, let's see, this would be 10-1, which is actually a Saturday, through 10-5. So it's not a full week, but it is some extra time that I have to work on things. Now, I want to make sure that I'm giving myself time to work on Alpenglow and also Nurtured. Originally, I thought I would just finish all of Alpenglow first, but seeing that that would leave me like 4 days to finish a sweater, that's just not going to be realistic. I'm also working through Alpenglow a lot faster than I thought. Currently, it is September 14th, and I have a goal to finish the body by the 17th, and I think I'm going to finish that at least a day early. I also only have sleeves to do, even though they do take a lot of time. I've given myself, I think, ample time to work on the sleeves for Alpenglow. So I think what I'm going to do here is work on Nurtured half of the week. So Alpenglow in the beginning of the week and Nurtured at the end of the week. What this will do is give me more time on Nurtured since I'll have weekends to work on Nurtured. And it will also help me kind of stay in a rhythm and flow instead of flipping back and forth between the two projects daily. I think that's going to work out well, and I will experiment with it and see. So I'm going to give myself until the 24th, which is in about a week and a half, to do the sleeves of my Nurtured sweater. And when it actually gets to like I'm getting closer to these dates, I will maybe break down like a daily, like I need to do X number of inches or rows per day, but I'm just not there yet. I don't want to overplan it, and I'm kind of still seeing my pace on the Alpenglow. So Alpenglow will look like maybe I work on it from like the 18th to the 21st, and then this is like the 22nd and 24th. I don't know. I'll come back and fix up these dates here in a little bit. Then the following week, I need to start on the body. So I will be working on the body, I think just body like part 1. And then I'm going to say this last week will be body part 2. And I'm not going to get any more specific than that, right now, this is, I think, a doable schedule because of the nature of this pattern. When the sleeves are done, once you start working on the body, when you start working on the top half of the body, it all integrates together and then you're just done. It's not a lot of finishing work or anything like that. So this is where I'm going to land for today, but I do like to go and get more detailed once I approach that week. So again, if you want to see the more detailed version of this, make sure to check out the video for my summer knitting plans, which I will have linked below. Moving right along chronologically, we're now into the West Knits MCal section of the fall. So I have learned from the past that this shawl knit along really takes up the majority of my knitting time. So I have blocked out the entirety of October, well, essentially from October 6th when the MCal starts to the end of the MCal 4 weeks from then for this shawl. That's all I'm going to focus on. Sure, I'll have probably like a sock project on the side or something like that. And if things are going really, really well, maybe I'll start in on another one of my sweaters that I'm planning to make, or if one of the sweaters that I'm planning to make before Rhinebeck isn't quite done yet, I can like feed that in. But I'm going to try my hardest to just have my needles totally clear and be able to focus fully on the MCal. I've learned that this is the only way for me, at least, to even have a chance of staying caught up with the clues, which is something that I really enjoy challenging myself to do. So this is my yarn for the Twists and Turns MCal, which is a pattern that is a mystery shawl by Stephen West that will be starting October 6th. So please come and join. It's so much fun. I have zero to do with it. I'm just a participant and a big cheerleader because I so enjoy doing these mystery knit alongs. So I think that everyone should do them if you're interested. But I did buy a kit this year and I'm going to talk way more about this in my video that is going to be specifically on the West Knits MCal. But just briefly, I got the walk yarn, which is a single ply merino wool, and this color collection is called Pink Blush. There's really not much else to say about this. It's just when I'm planning my knitting, I make sure to like keep time sacred for things that are important to me. And this October space is so fun and important to me to have clear so that I can enjoy the mystery knit along, just like I'm intending to keep December kind of sacred and open for all of the enjoyable Advent knitting and crochet that I'm planning to do. Now this brings us to November, which I am going to call my winter sweater season, or it may be more appropriately named, knit as much as I can to get my stash down as low as it can before Advent knitting starts. This is the part that I have, I would say, the least planned and the least details on, but I like working that way. I find that if I plan in so much detail too far ahead, it does a couple things for me that just makes me not want to follow through on my plans. It makes me feel a little bit trapped. And then if I'm getting behind on my knitting, which is kind of just a concept, who's to say you're behind? It's your knitting and you're the boss. So I don't like to like plan out week by week or anything like that. That being said, I do have general ideas of the yarn that I'm going to use and the sweaters that I'm going to make. And the more that I like sit and marinate with them, the more excited I get about them. But I also have the freedom to change my mind when it comes to November. That's still 2 months away at this point. So this is what I'm thinking right now. I have these two commercially made sweaters that I've had for years that I really like, and I kind of want to replace them with hand knitted items that have a similar function. They may not be exactly the same, but similar. So the first one is this sweater. I don't even know, it says Jennifer Lopez. I feel like this was like a Kohl's purchase or something. Like I have no idea how long I've had this, but it's this lovely cream sweater that has like sheer pieces and like sparkly sleeves and everything. It's a really fun sweater. I know it's like blowing out like a lot, but it's a really fun sweater to wear when I want to feel a little bit dressy. And I almost exclusively wear it in the winter because it is long sleeve and it's like synthetic, so it gets a little warm. But I really like this and it makes me feel cute. And I have some fun yarn in my stash that I think I can make a similar vibe sort of sweater that will be perfect. So let me show you what I have. So I have this yarn that I got on the New Jersey Wool Walk what was the date? I think it was like May or something earlier this year. And this is a Chelsea Luxe yarn, and it is a special colorway just for Grace and Pearl, the shop that I got it at. So I actually have 4 skeins of yarn here. They're just bundled together with a mohair and a slub. Okay, so what I'm thinking for this, and I totally am copying Maddie, who's made by Maddie and Needles at the, or not Needles at the Ready. What is their podcast called? I'll put it on the screen because I cannot remember off the top of my head, but I am totally copying her because she has just made a gorgeous diaphanous raglan by Jessie Made Designs. And it is so pretty. She used slub, she used mohair for the sleeves, and it's like dreamy and wispy and everything that this sweater is aside from the sparkle. But I think it's gonna be like the perfect way to nod to the sweater, but also give me something that I've made that is beautiful and new and fresh and a little more modern, and something that I really love. And getting this yarn out of my stash, which is a goal I have for this year. I'm excited to use this yarn. I haven't knit with slub in a while, maybe ever, because I keep getting rid of my slub yarn, but I'm finally gonna use it. So I think that that will be such a fun replacement. And so I'm generally thinking I will start this in November with hopes to knit on it throughout the winter, but no exact like week to week, day to day right now. The other commercial made sweater that I've had for years is this one. This one is from Forever 21, although I definitely didn't buy it at Forever 21. I think I got it at Goodwill, but I really like it. It's like a fisherman's rib sort of thing with like a little bit of detail here in the front, and it is just great, and it looks great on, it feels good on. Well, no, it doesn't feel good on. That's the thing. It's definitely made from something synthetic, and it's just a little bit like not the greatest feeling. Let's see, what's it made of? It is made of acrylic, 100% acrylic yarn. So it has a little bit of that squeak, and it's still hand wash, even though it's acrylic yarn. So I'm like, what's the point? It's not making things any better for me. This particular acrylic doesn't feel the greatest. Not saying that all acrylics are that way, but this one is like just okay. So I have wanted to replace this sweater for so long. I got an idea just a few weeks ago. Somebody tipped me off to an Andrea Mowry pattern. I think it's called Birch. And so I had that one saved in my queue. But then just last week, Emily Green came out with a Citron Light. I think I'm saying it right. Her pattern is Citron Light. It is not all over texture. It's not even fisherman's rib or brioche or anything that looks exactly like this. I think it's a twisted rib, but it has that similar kind of like, you know, like whatever this is. It's not exactly the same. It doesn't go like this, but it's got like the rib going like on the sleeves and on the shoulders, and it's so pretty. And I'm like, that's it, at least right now. That's the one. I've been wanting to replace the sweater for so long, and I think that is the one. And wouldn't you know that I had ordered some yarn for my Alpenglow sweater, the one I showed earlier in this video, that didn't work out. And so I was left with this extra yarn going, what am I going to do with it? And to be perfectly honest, I haven't quite looked to see if I can make this work, because the Citron Light is a fingering weight pattern, and the yarn that I'm holding here is definitely a sport weight yarn. So I'm not 100% sure this will all work out yardage wise or yarn wise, but I'm gonna save those details for future Natalie to work out anyway. But what I'm thinking right now is I could use this yarn, this Magpie that I got from my Alpenglow, to make the Citron Light and replace this other sweater that I've used and loved and just want a better, more elevated, cozy, and most importantly, made by me version of the sweater. I think that that would be gorgeous and fun. So these are the last sweater quantities left in my stash. So if I'm able to start on them and work on them in November during my winter sweater month, that will be huge into making it to my goal of completing and using up my entire stash in 2022. So let's review. We've got September, which is basically Rhinebeck prep, getting all my sweaters done. We've got October, which is entirely reserved for the Stephen West MCAL. And then we've got November, which is my winter sweater month, getting things ready, replacing my wardrobe, and having beautiful things in a stash that's entirely cleared out. If you're interested in seeing how everything pans out, make sure you're following along with my weekly podcast, because I will be keeping you updated on all of my projects and how I'm getting on with them, and also keeping you posted on my stash itself. Do these skeins actually end up into the sweaters that I'm planning? Who is to know? And if you liked this video and you want to know more about planning your knitting, make sure to check out the video that I did earlier this year that goes into great detail on how I use my notebook. I'll have that one linked down below. Stay tuned, because later this year I will have a similar video telling you how I'm planning out all of my Advent projects for December. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!